What's up, everybody? It's your boy World of Wrestling here today to discuss about the WWE Raw episode from December 11th, 2024. Or not December 11th, what am I talking about? December 9th, 2024. I did upload a WWE SmackDown episode that occurred on December 6th. Go ahead, if you haven't checked it out, go ahead, check it out. It's in the video file on the channel, so you'll definitely catch it and see what I had to say about that. SmackDown was a fairly decent show, not great, but it wasn't bad either. So a very decent show to watch. Raw was pretty much the same, fairly decent. Nothing too crazy happened. A lot of women's wrestling occurred on this episode this past Monday. The main event was actually Raquel Rodriguez and Rhea Ripley in a no-holds-barred match, which she ends up winning with Io Sky and Liv Morgan kind of get involved in this match as well and alter the entire match to Rhea Ripley's favor, thanks to Io Sky. Other things that occurred on this show, we saw that the New Day was booed out of the building. They had several different segments on the show that was very entertaining. A lot of people backstage were not too happy with their actions and what they did. They were against what they did and how they were acting last week to Big E. They didn't really appreciate it. They thought that what they did was not really anything wrong. They saw it as them just kind of being fed up with Big E, and that was it. That was pretty much the consensus of that. They got booed out of the building, had an amazing heel reaction from the fans. Fans absolutely can't stand them right now. So they are, possibly one of the hottest heels right now, in my personal opinion, on the Raw roster. So I thought that was pretty cool. The World Championship for WWE's Saturday night's main event has been changed. It's been changed from a singles to a triple threat. I think that was a smart move on WWE's part to do. I was predicting that Damian Priest was going to interfere in the match, and then the match would rebooked for Royal Rumble to be a triple threat. That is actually not occurring. They're bypassing that, so the match isn't so damn predictable and repetitive like it was for Survivor Series. Survivor Series had the same similar situation. Why produce the same thing again to the Saturday night's main event world title match? So let's change it up and just make the triple threat now, bypass it, and just go with it and find a new challenger for Gunther after Saturday night's main event. I think that that's a smart move. I don't think that that's bad at all. I think that's the right way to go with this. I don't think that you're, doing anything wrong or causing any harm here by doing it like that. So I don't see anything wrong with the move. I think it's not a bad move at all, really. So I kind of like that. There was a brawl that took place in the beginning of the show with Gunther and Finn Balor. Gunther told Finn Balor he had a lot of respect for him when he initially started, and he became the first Universal Champion. Unfortunately, only had it for a day because of an injury. And ever since then, he lost more and more respect for him. And as time has gone on, he has no respect for him at all. He looks down upon him, sees him as no leader, sees him as a loser, and plays second fiddle to other people, especially Damian Priest. So there was some really nice shots that were thrown at Finn Balor in this promo. This eventually led to Finn Balor kind of getting the advantage over Gunther, while Damian Priest got involved in this as well. And at the end of all of it, Finn Balor stood tall in the middle of the ring with both his tag team championship belt and the world heavyweight title. very interesting little look there. But I don't expect Finn Balor to walk out as the new world champion, nor Damian Priest for that matter. Moving on. The Final Testament and The Miz are walking backstage. They battle the Wyatt Six next. Backstage segment, we get Finn Balor celebrating with the Judgment Day. Raw General Manager Adam Pearce comes up and says, "This is a courtesy as a result of the actions. The World Heavyweight Championship match has been changed to a triple threat match." Balor does not seem to be happy with it, but he says, "Fine. It'll make it even more satisfying when he beats both Gunther and Damian Priest to become the new world champion." Pearce says that since Balor is so concerned with titles, he can lead by example. Next Monday, Balor and JD McDonough will defend the tag team titles without the Judgment Day being allowed at ringside. They are banned. So they will be facing the War Raiders for their tag team titles. War Raiders will win the tag team titles this time in this rematch. So don't be surprised when that occurs. Balor is infuriated as Pearce walks off. Women's World Champion Liv Morgan sarcastically asks Balor if he has any advice for them, because when you listen to Finn, you win. And Balor says he needs a few minutes and walks off. So obviously, Finn Balor looks like he might be out the fucking door soon with Judgment Day. He's been making comments about Dominic Mysterio not being worthy enough to challenge for a world title, or calling him a kid and demeaning him and so forth. Damian Priest didn't really do all that per se. But Finn Balor is really digging into Dominic Mysterio quite a bit. And I think Dominic Mysterio is going to end up being the leader of the Judgment Day. And I think it's a good move. I think it will help him either sink or swim. In a role like this, I think this is going to help us decide whether or not he is ready for a major role in WWE. He's been playing a a guy that plays in the background, and kind of just a guy that does things for people that are leaders of a group. I think this is a very good idea and a good move by WWE's part, to try to see where Dominic Mysterio is going to end up playing a massive role here in a faction that has been pretty much for the last 2 or 3 years have been pretty much the stable and the focal point of Monday Night Raw from time to time. Sometimes they kind of fade off into the distance. But I think this is definitely something that is going to tell us whether or not Dominic Mysterio is ready to be in the main event scene, or at least be a good singles competitor and have an important role on this roster by playing the role of a leader of this group. I think it works out great. He's got Liv Morgan by his side. I think this is a great move, and I think we're going to be able to see if he can actually make it in the big times with WWE Raw or SmackDown or both, whatever, because they're going to be flip-flopping people around and shit. So I think that this is definitely going to be a huge upside for Dominic Mysterio, and we'll finally see if Dominic Mysterio is ready for a major role in WWE programming. So next, we have a 8-man tag team match with the Final Testament going up against the Wyatt Six. The Wyatt Six actually end up losing this match to the Final Testament, with Karrion Kross getting the W on Bo Dallas. And I like this move. I mean, it kind of is crazy that Bo Dallas took the L here, but it also shows that Bo Dallas is not invincible. And we don't need these guys to be invincible. We don't want that. Creatively, we would basically, WWE book themselves in a corner, leaving them with no flexibility to have Bo Dallas or any of his guys that work in that group to lose. we want to make them kind of like human, but also supernatural at the same time, but not to the point of like the Fiend, where he's unbeatable, and if you beat him, well, then you're making him look like shit. Here, the way they've been doing Wyatt Six, they're humanizing them in some cases. They're also making them supernatural, but they're beatable in the sense in the ring. And I do appreciate that. It leaves the ability for things not to be predictable. It doesn't make you feel stupid if they lose. Things of that sort. So I like the idea of toning them down to a certain point where they are human and they can be beaten, but also mix it with a little supernatural to make it where it's not totally like, making them bland as shit. The supernatural part is more along the lines of them being entertaining, but in the ring, they're just who they are. The people that they're portraying in the ring. So they're, people that can actually lose, but, they're not harmed by a loss like the Fiend was harmed by when he suffered an L. Just my thoughts on that. But yeah, this was not a bad match, but not great either. I think it was an average. I'd give it a C. Karrion Kross getting the W, I think, was great. I think they need to find him a really good role. I think also this Final Testament group, I'm not really liking it so much. It doesn't seem like they're these big, bad, evil characters. The only one I care about is Karrion Kross. That's about it. Miz, he doesn't even fit with this group. Doesn't even fit in with them. So, there's a sit-down interview with CM Punk. Jackie Redmond's the one that sits down with him. She asks about the favor Paul Heyman owes him, and Punk says it's a personal thing. Punk goes back years with Heyman. It's personal. Last week, Punk said he doesn't think of Seth Rollins at all. How will he handle that? Punk says he won't shy away from a fight. If you come at him, he'll swing. Rollins' hatred of him confuses him. Punk doesn't hate Rollins. You have to talk about their history. You're talking about a 16-year-old Rollins coming up to Punk and asking him to train him for free. Key thing is, for free. It's like that entitlement has carried over into his adult years, and who wants to be the best in the world, and Punk remembers a time when Rollins was on the top 10 list of people to be fired from this place. And Punk shielded him from that. If he were in Rollins' place, Punk would hate him too. In Punk's absence, Rollins did a good job filling in. Now the starter is back. Rollins has to return to the bench. I liked the little statement he made about shielding him from being fired. And that is very valuable commentary because he's the one who created the idea of the Shield and presented it to Vince at the time. Vince really didn't have any idea what to do with these guys. Roman was the only person he really cared about. Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley now known as, didn't care for him either. Didn't see much in any value in him. But Punk came up with a great idea for these three guys to do together, and Vince went with it. And Vince was looking at possibly having CM Punk be the leader of this Shield, which ironically was kind of presented back in December of 2012 when there was belief that the Shield was working with CM Punk to destroy The Rock, leading up to the Royal Rumble for the World Championship that he was carrying at that time through that 1-year run. So that was kind of interesting that was presented back then, and that Punk was actually the one with the idea to create the Shield. And Vince kind of was like, all right, let's go for it. So that was kind of interesting there. But yeah, I think that this is kind of interesting how they're trying to build this is based off of hatred from past history. I think it has a lot to do with. It was later explained by Seth Rollins. It's not the fact that he didn't train him when he was a kid for free or any of that. It was more along the lines like you left WWE and yeah, you left, but you made matters even worse by leaving you shit all over this company any chance you got and buried it and was away from pro wrestling for almost 10 years. Then decided one day to come back, and now you're back here in WWE, and we're just supposed to, welcome you with open arms instantaneously without it blinking an eye, which is not the way Seth Rollins wants to do things. So that is his explanation there. So that was explained later on in the show. Next up, we had Dakota Kai and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, of course, wins this match against Dakota Kai, even though I do believe Dakota Kai is in the Women's Intercontinental Championship tournament still, so that's kind of interesting. Pure Fusion Collective starts to triple team Dakota Kai, but Damage Control runs down to even the odds. Io Sky knocks them out of the ring. Sane then comes off the top rope with a crossbody block to the floor on PFC. Morgan then hits Sky with the vicious Oblivion, spiking Sky on the head. And Morgan stands over her Saturday night's main event opponent. Next up, we had Drew McIntyre says Hell in a Cell was the most violent match of his career. He accumulated a lot of blood loss. McIntyre could have been on Raw after Bad Blood, but he had to go back to Scotland. His family needed him. 2024 should have been his year, but he got screwed time and time again. While he was in Scotland, he wondered if people were right. Then he turned on Survivor Series and saw Roman Reigns, that people change, and saw Roman Reigns standing side by side with CM Punk along with Sami Zayn, Jimmy, and Jey Uso. They all went back for nothing. At least Punk took a bribe. That's when he knew he had to come back and take out Sami and Jey Uso. McIntyre cannot change the past, but he will change the present and future. Commentators say that Jey Uso was not medically cleared after McIntyre's attack last week, so he's not on the show. Seth Rollins makes his way to the ring next. I already discussed all this. Sami Zayn, though, after the explanation, comes out, apologizes for the fact of accusing him first thing as being the guy to attack Jey Uso. And Seth Rollins was like, yeah, I was really upset about that. What made you actually believe that I was the first person to come to mind that I was the one that attacked Jey Uso? And he said, it's because of the way you were acting, the way you sounded. You didn't sound like your normal self. You sounded like someone else. And you just sounded like you were kind of like mad at all of us for doing anything with Roman Reigns when that was, like you were sounding like Drew McIntyre. That upset Seth Rollins quite a bit. He was like, what? And he says, but you're a better person than Drew McIntyre and so forth. And apologizing for stating that. And Seth Rollins said, okay, well, I accept your apology and I appreciate it. So I'm going to let you handle your business with Drew McIntyre because you got some shit to work out. They announced that Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn will go one-on-one at Saturday night's main event. So another good matchup, pay-per-view quality type match is being booked for this show. Really love it. I mean, despite the fact we don't have a PLE for December, that's okay. The Saturday night main event is going to actually make it up for December not having a pay-per-view for WWE. So, After he announces that, he walks up the stage and Drew McIntyre attacks him, beats the living hell out of him. So, there you go. And he's attended to. Next, we had a triple threat women's intercontinental tournament match. Ivy Nile, Zelina Vega, and Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria ends up getting the victory here, obviously. I believe it's going to be Dakota Kai, Lyra Valkyria. They made it very easy to predict, personally, because of the fact that, let's face it, they had promos for both of these women on one Raw episode, and it, you know, you kind of get the gist that these two are going to be the ones in the finals for the Intercontinental title for the women. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods explain why they turned on Big E, but don't exactly get the opportunity to because of the loud yelling and screaming from the fans, which, by the way, was not piped in noise. That was legitimate fan reaction. You can clearly see it all over the crowd. You can see people's faces screaming their full heads off, booing like crazy, pointing their thumbs down, so on and so forth. Chanting for Big E. We also, before that, Cody Rhodes and them actually had an interaction. Cody was not very happy with their choice and what they did last week. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people hate the New Day. And they chanted New Day sucks as well. Haven't heard that since they initially started doing the New Day group. Anyway, to the main event, Anything Goes match with Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. This was okay for what it was. She got riptied into the table for the win for Rhea Ripley. Ripley and Sky both grab the Women's World Championship and look at each other as if they are both going ahead and, are interested in that belt. Only one can have it, and that's pretty much all. And that's how the show goes off the air, so that's pretty much it. I thought it was a fairly decent show, not bad at all. I think the direction that Raw and SmackDown are both producing are fairly decent. They're not amazing in any way, but they are fairly watchable, and they progress the stories that need to be told. The wrestling has been kind of light, nothing really heavy of importance on these shows when it comes to wrestling, but at least the show makes sense, the show flows correctly, and we have reasonable stories being told here that intrigue us and keep us interested as we watch week by week. So, kudos to WWE and the amazing job that they're doing. Hopefully the 3-hour change for both Raw and SmackDown is not a absolute boredom, but just before Raw was going back to 2 hours, the 3 hours of Raw was actually improving under Triple H's creative booking decisions. So I do believe we have a good shot at seeing some really good content, even though they're 3 hours. Not to mention the flexibility to move the rosters around and do things week by week will also help things out and keep the major star players on television instead of holding everyone back or having fluff shows with certain spots of the show with no importance whatsoever. So that should help things out for a 3-hour show if we're having flexibility with the rosters. But anyway, guys, that's all I have to say at this time. You know what to do. Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below. And I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching. And have a great night, guys. Bye.